It was a stormy night. The kind that makes you question if the world outside your window is a dream or a nightmare. Lightning illuminated the sky, casting eerie shadows across the room, where a young man sat at his desk, pen in hand. His name was William, and he was about to change the course of literature forever. William Wordsworth was not just any young man. He was a poet, and on this night, he was wrestling with ideas that would soon ignite a revolution. The Romantic movement, as it would come to be known, was a rebellion against the cold, rational world of the Enlightenment. It was a call to embrace emotion, nature, and the mystical. William's mind raced as he thought about the poem he was working on. It was a collaboration with his friend Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and it was called Lyrical Ballads. This collection of poems was more than just a book. It was a manifesto. It declared that poetry should be accessible, should speak to the heart, and should capture the beauty and complexity of the natural world. As the storm raged on, William's thoughts drifted to his childhood. He remembered the lakes and fells of the English Lake District, where he had grown up. The rolling hills, the crystal clear waters, and the ancient forests had shaped him. They had taught him to see the world in a way that most people had forgotten. He believed that nature was not just a backdrop, but a living, breathing entity that could speak to the soul. William's pen moved swiftly across the page. He wrote about the simplicity of rural life, the joy of a flower, and the pain of loss. He wrote about the power of the human spirit and the mysteries of the universe. Each word was a spark, and together they would light a fire. But Lyrical Ballads was not just a collection of pretty verses. It was a challenge to the literary establishment. At the time, poetry was often seen as a highbrow art form reserved for the educated elite. William and Coleridge wanted to change that. They believed that poetry should be for everyone, that it should touch the lives of ordinary people. As the storm began to subside, William read over what he had written. He knew that this was more than just a book of poems. It was a new beginning, a new way of seeing the world. He could feel the excitement building inside him. This was the start of something big. The next morning, the sun rose over the Lake District, casting a golden glow over the landscape. William looked out the window, feeling a sense of purpose he had never felt before. He knew that the world was about to change, and he was going to be at the forefront of that change. But the journey ahead was not easy. William faced criticism and skepticism from many in the literary world. Some saw his poems as too simple, too emotional, too radical. But William was undeterred. He believed in the power of his words, and he knew that they would resonate with people who were hungry for something more. As the years passed, William's reputation grew. He wrote more and more, exploring themes of nature, humanity, and the divine. His most famous work, The Prelude, was a deeply personal reflection on his life and the forces that had shaped him. It was a masterpiece that cemented his place as one of the greatest poets of his time. But William was more than just a poet. He was a thinker, a philosopher, and a revolutionary. His ideas about the relationship between nature and humanity, between the individual and the collective, continue to influence us today. He showed us that poetry is not just a form of art, but a way of understanding the world. And so, on that stormy night, as William Wordsworth sat at his desk, he was not just writing a book. He was writing a new chapter in the history of literature, a chapter that would inspire generations to come. The storm had passed, but the fire he had ignited would burn for years to come.